Thanks to the existence of its new evolution, Annihilape, Primeape itself is now a massive threat that no one seems to know about. So today it's time to reveal the true sauce when it comes to the angry floofball. Primeape has honestly solid stats for a not fully evolved mon with big base 105 attack, 95 speed that allows it to be faster than people think, and while its bulk is a bit lacking, it now qualifies for the Eviolite held item, which when given to a Pokemon that's not fully evolved, gives it a 50% boost to both defensive stats. I'm going to build this bad boy with max HP and special defense investment with a careful nature, which makes it honestly kind of crazy on the special side. And then it's time to set up with bulk up to boost our attack and defense. The more it bulks up, the more frustrating it's going to be to get damage against. And meanwhile, we're going to pop people with Stab Drain Punch to heal ourselves in the process. We can also abuse the ability Defiant, which doubles our attack for each stat that's dropped by an opponent, which can be clutch. While it's been taking hits left and right, that helps us out when it comes to Rage Fist, which is a 50 power ghost move, but gets plus 50 damage for each attack we take. At a max power of 300, we pair that with Terra Ghost to become a great value Annihilape. And if you thought you were going to give us some status or even set up in front of us, we have relatively speedy Taunt to just stop that in its tracks. Overall, Eviolite Primeape is totally slept on, and so it's time to show people that the angry floofball can be a menace. Primeape now being the little brother to Annihilape just has made him more angry, which is dangerous. And also, having access to Eviolite makes this thing pretty damn crazy. I've had this in the builder for a really long time, and I just haven't messed with it. I kind of forgot about the guy. But honestly, this has now become one of my favorite not fully evolved things to use because it's kind of crazy. If this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm on my way to 400k. I'd love to have you help out. And with that, let's just jump into the match. All right, so as my opponent is going to lead off with the scariest bear of all time, it works out kind of nicely. I've got a Masquerain lead who does not ever get a good matchup, but it turns out a turn 1 Intimidate on a guy that now can't really touch us feels pretty good. That also sets me up in a spot where Pinhead Larry can now throw up a free Sticky Web and get things going for the rest of the squad. So they are obviously going to swap out, realizing it's a bad day to be a bear, and they end up bringing in Corviknight. So what was once a safe time for us is now incredibly dangerous, as I figure this thing, it does two things here, right? First of all, they probably go into Corviknight just to click Defog to get rid of the Sticky Web. Luckily for me, however, I kind of want that to happen because as I can switch into Furious George, Bloody's not curious anymore. Now we're just pissed off. They go for the Defog, which is perfect. That is, of course, going to blow away the webs, but that now activates my Defiant ability, just immediately doubling my attack. And that's one of the best ways that this team is able to just jumpstart the Primeape setup just immediately. So the problem is, while I do kind of fear a Brave Bird, I figure, you know what, I can go for a bulk up here, get another boost to my attack, but also get that defensive boost, and they realize they're just going to go ahead and U-turn on out of here. So now I'm at +3, I got a defense boost, and I've also been hit by a U-turn. So that's important to note that now Rage Fist already has 100 power, which is literally nuts. So the awkward thing is they end up pivoting into Blissey, which feels like I'm being baited. Obviously, either they're going to go for a Terra here, or try to pull out some nonsense. So as they do go for the Terra Ghost, just fully expecting me to just take the bait and, you know, punch him, I instead can bust out a little taunt here. That's because I'm worried about things like, you know, potentially a Toxic, a Thunder Wave, anything this thing does, it's not going to be great. So as I go for the taunt, instead they just bust out a Shadow Ball. And here's where fully specially defensive, even with a calm nature, is hilarious because that I don't think I even saw my health bar move. That is fantastic because now I've been hit again. 150 power Rage Fist with a Defiant boost and a bulk up. That Blissey may never be the same again. It's going to easily take care of it. That gets rid of their Terra in the process. And now Buddy is absolutely living in fear of the floofball, which I totally do not blame. So as they end up bringing in Araquanid, looking at their squad, it feels like they don't really have a whole lot of options. They go into this thing because they think maybe they can take an attack. I go for the Terra boosted Rage Fist, but they just run, which is kind of hilarious that Primeape was able to enable that. So, I mean, that was just a taste of what this little fella can get up to, which is hilarious. Now, that's going to bring us into game number 2 because obviously that first one did not satisfy. It's annoying when people do that, but I mean, it happens and it still kind of feels funny. So, without any further ado, let's just jump into this next game where hopefully we can get Primeape to you know, actually pop off. You know, it's funny, that first game was actually the first time I used this Primeape, and I was like, wow, it actually is cooking up something if it got it the first person it saw to just run with 5 mons left. So This time, though, my opponent leads off with an Umbreon. Not sure what this thing's doing as a lead, but I am, I've got Rotom Fan out here. My plan all along was to try to get rid of this thing's item and give it a choice specs to just neutralize, anything every Umbreon's ever done. But as they end up swapping into Belly Bolt, Tubby comes in here, and I don't really want this thing to have the specs. I mean, in general, it's just going to hit probably pretty hard with that. It turns out I can at least see its item. I get a Pataya Berry from it, so it's trying to boost up its special attack anyway. And then as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? You can go ahead and just have that back. I would prefer to take those specs back and then be able to still potentially trick it to something else, which is hilarious. I don't know if I've ever gone for the two-turn trick, but it's kind of funny because as they go for a discharge, the reason why I do it is like, that's a neutral hit, but I can take attacks from it all day. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you your berry back. It seems like Fat Boy would have been pissed off about that. So it gets its berry, and now they end up swapping back into Umbreon. So I can now go for a Volt Switch because I'm not spexed into Trick. I can go ahead, I can grab myself a position here. It's really nice that they end up swapping there because not only do I get great damage, but now I can go into whatever I want. So looking at it, I do feel like Primeape has a good opportunity in this match. But first, I want to try to I want to just set some stuff up a bit. So I decided to go into the Orthworm. Now, the big Alaskan Bullworm feels pretty nice here because I can't be toxic. I can set up my Stealth Rock. That's going to help me out later on, but also I can potentially threaten with things like Body Press, and I could even get some Iron Defense and going if the worm wants to harden. Pause. Now, they do go for the Yawn, which is a bit unfortunate. That's going to stop me from setting up here, and the Yawn is just a good way to kind of force some movement. So this thing's over here eating some leftovers. I figure, you know what? Might as well. I'm just going to go Primeape. I got my Stealth Rock up, so that's going to help out. And the Primeape matchup, most of all, is just going to put this thing in a little bit of an awkward position. Does it want to stay in against these hands? You will not like the monkey when it's pissed off. So they end up going for the Curse. Just out here yelling profanities that just makes me even more angry as a spiky, angry fluff ball. And another benefit of bringing in Primeape here is that I know that they probably will want to go for something like a Yawn or a Toxic or just whatever this thing wants to do, right? But I can taunt that. Fast taunt, relatively fast taunt is super nice utility. And I also kind of threaten the fact that I could be Vital Spirit, so they might not want to put me to sleep anyway. I go for the taunt because they do click the Yawn. So that's going to go ahead and stop that. Now this thing can no longer go for curses. And while I am potentially a little frightened of things like Foul Play, messing with my attack setup, I'm just going to go for the Bulk Up. It's time to start pumping some iron because if I get, honestly, with just one Bulk Up, with max special defense investment, I'm not worried about attacks from either side, either physical or special, especially when I can just have reliable healing with Drain Punches. So as I go for the Bulk Up, in comes the Cerulite. They probably try to bring it in on something like a Close Combat. And as I'm looking at this matchup, I'm just going to Bulk Up again. Now, it turns out I am faster, which is nice, but at +2 defense, I know that not only can I take attacks from this thing pretty easily, but also they're going to have to touch me eventually, and as soon as they do, Rage Fist Power Up is going to put me in a spot where, especially with the Stealth Rock up, breaking his Focus Sash that I was worried about, it's not going to have much for us. So it turns out they do go for the Swords Dance. That puts us on a little bit of an even playing field, feeling kind of evil. But regardless, at this point, here's the plan. While I saw that I was faster, I have not been hit by anything to power up Rage Fist. So in order to guarantee that I can grab a knockout here, I decided to go for the Terra Ghost. We're going Danny Phantom on that ass, full Terra Ghost. And I also am met with them going for a Terra as well, which is unfortunate. Not exactly sure what they're going to want to bust out here. Turns out Terra Fire just to increase their fire damage. Again, since they have a Swords Dance and I have 2 Bulk Ups, I know that I can still take attacks from this thing decently. The problem is I just can't Drain Punch, and I rely on that a lot of the time. But as I am faster, I go for my Rage Fist here. We're just out here raging, and sadly, with that defensive Terra, it's just barely able to hang on. Had they touched me once, it would have been great. But as they now can fire off a Bitter Blade, they're going to be able to get some health back. But I do barely hang on. It does do a lot, I'm not going to lie. But he's got swords for hands, and he kind of hurts. So luckily, the most important part is that we live it. It is also Life Orb, so that's why it does so much. But as long as the Primeape is alive, there is danger in the air. So I can now go for a Drain Punch. I know that that should be able to knock it out. Luckily, it is going to finish it off and get me some decent health in the process. And now we're looking pretty nice because that gets rid of their Terra. And that is always really good. So the Cerulite goes down. Now looking at what they have left, they have to go into something faster, and they want to probably try to neutralize the Primeape before it gets too out of hand. So what they're going to do is they go into the Iron Bundle. And Bundle is, Bundle's generally a problem. Very fast, hits hard on the special side. It's also got a booster energy to activate that Quark Drive. It is going to give it just a speed boost though, which feels pretty good because since I'm so invested in special defense, check this out. They bust out an Ice Beam, and I live. The critical hit knocks me down to 16. That was a crit. which is actually insane to say. With an Eviolite and literally just calm max special defense HP, we took that way better than they expected, surely, and then a Drain Punch kills it, and Primeape absolutely on top. So knocking out a bundle always feels good, honestly. But we got some work to do because as they bring in Frigiraffe, the refrigerator, this thing comes in, it can take a Drain Punch, which is a little bit unfortunate. But with the health back I get from that, I should be able to take any attack this thing wants to throw at me because the ape is literally going crazy. Now, it does put it into Citrus Berry range, which is not really that big of a deal because it doesn't heal past the point where I can't knock it out. They do have the Shadow Ball. Nothing like a little forehead Shadow Ball coming right to us. Does nothing. Primeape absolutely eats it up for breakfast and then saves a little bit in their refrigerator for lunch there. So I can now finish it off with a Drain Punch. And it's like, what are you going to do about the Primeape? For real. Takes care of the freaking giraffe. And who needs the ghost type evolution when you can just go Terra Ghost and be a Kmart version of Annihilape? It's kind of hilarious. So as they now bring in Tinkaton, I figured, what is this thing going to do? They go for a Skitter Smack, which is kind of funny. It misses. But I imagine they probably click that likely to try to roll for the attack drop. But Defiant would just then boost me even further. And as I Drain Punch, now I'm at full HP. So I mean, you're not gonna like me when I'm angry or at full HP, because now as they go for a Gigaton Hammer, they can get off a big attack. Boom, does nothing. +1 defense. Eviolite boosted. Drain Punch the hell out of it. That's a dead Tinkaton. So does it feel kind of mean? Absolutely. But I mean, hey, we're not here to make friends, baby. We're here to rage fish some stuff. So at this point, they've got 2 Mons left. Going to be the Belly Bolt along with the Umbreon. And as Belly Bolt comes in, this is just a nice little punching bag here. Probably one of the most satisfying Mons to punch would be Belly Bolt. I'm not gonna lie. I go for the Rage Fist because not only is it Terra boosted, I've been hit a whole bunch. So we've got like max power Rage Fist. And while it does delete the Belly Bolt, I then get staticked, which is just rude. But it doesn't really change the fact that their final Mon is going to be the Umbreon, and that thing is just ripe for the Drain Punching. So as they go Umbreon, they're just going to head out probably, I figure, unless they want to give me the satisfying full body bag. But they just dip out. Totally understand. But honestly, if you let the Primeape get out of control, it can do stuff like that. That's not to say that this thing's like broken. It a lot of the time, it does not find situations like that, but it can. It absolutely can, and it will. So that's now going to bring us into game number 3. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video and you haven't clicked the like button yet, go ahead and do me a big favor and smash the button for me. It does help out, and it just takes you a second. I promise it's actually not that big of a deal. But if you do it, that'd be kind of cool anyway. My opponent has a crazy looking team over here, but you know what's also crazy is freaking Primeape. Buddy has a Ho-Oh, which, you know, is certainly threatening, and this is an interesting game, so let's jump into it. All right, so this time my opponent's going to lead off with the Blastoise, and this angry turtle bastard is frightening. Nothing strikes fear in my heart like the opportunity for someone to just click a Shell Smash turn 1 and just sweep me immediately. So as Mamoswine's here to set up Stealth Rock, instead I got to pivot. Pivot ideas. I got to decide to go for the Earthquake here just to get some damage. I feel like as long as I can chip away at the Blastoise, I'll be relatively fine. Instead, however, they swap into the Ho-Oh, who is floating so high and it's like its head is damn near out of the frame. But I figured they probably go into this because it is worried about the Stealth Rock being set up. So they try to come in before the rocks happen. It is able to avoid the Earthquake there. Now I figure, screw it, I'm just going to set up my rocks. As they do go for the Sacred Fire, luckily this meatball, it will not be burnt today. Mamoswine is straight up a meatball. But luckily it does decent damage. But now I figure as I don't have much that wants to hard switch into it, I just go for an Icicle Crash with the Life Orb. Does do some considerable damage to the thing, which is nice. And while they finish me off with the Sacred Fire, at least at this point, you know, the Ho-Oh, just damage on the Ho-Oh is pretty valuable. So looking at what I've got to do to this thing, the answer is not much. I decide to go into probably the funniest matchup ever, which is Masquerain versus Ho-Oh. And I would love if I could knock this thing out with a Hydro Pump. That would be actually hilarious. But first, I decide to set up a Sticky Web because while I'm Focus Sash, I know I can take any attack this wants to throw at me, and the Sticky Web is going to be really good value. So it turns out, though, they're going to click a Recover, which stinks because now that gets rid of all the work my Mamoswine did, and now it's back near to full health. It probably is heavy-duty boots, I imagine, but at this point, screw it. I'm sashed. I can take an attack from it. I connect on a Hydro Pump, which does great damage. Boom, right back down to before the Recover. I was proud of Masquerain there for a minute, and then I realized it was a crit, which does make sense. Now, as they go for the Sacred Fire, luckily, they also don't get the burn this time, which is great because I can live it with the Sash. The high burn chance is not rolling for him, which is really good because now it probably is in range for Hydro Pump to knock it out. And again, it is an absolute dream for a Masquerain to kill a Ho-Oh, but they're not going to let that happen today. because as I go for the Hydro Pump, they make the safe switch into Toxicroak, who is absolutely lacking in lotion because this thing's skin is about dry as hell, and there's probably a few better feelings than a dry skin Mon just switching into a Hydro Pump. He's like, yes, hydrate the hell out of me. So that's going to go ahead and activate the dry skin. Doesn't do any damage, instead heals it. But it does have a Sticky Web up. Now, I am worried about the potential for just Sucker Punch here. But then again, Masquerain doesn't switch back in on Stealth Rock anyway. So as I go for the Air Slash, they do not click the Sucker Punch, probably expecting me to swap. But I also get the flinch too. So it is just Masquerain's day today. And I would thought maybe they don't have the Sucker Punch if they didn't click it that time. So I'm like, sweet, I'm just going to go for it again. But yeah, no, they do just bop me one with a little Sucker Punch. Down goes the Masquerain. But not before I was able to at least neutralize the Toxicroak, because now the Life Orb just knocks it out. And that feels pretty good. So we have ourselves in an old-fashioned empty battlefield, which is always fun. And I figure, you know who enjoys that is freaking Whiscash. Now, with Whiscash, this is a Dragon Dance setup that am trying to get going. But as they bring in Ho-Oh, this isn't a horrible matchup for me, right? I obviously threaten it. It does come back in with more health because of Regenerator. I have a little bit of a plan here. If I'm them, I probably click Sacred Fire. Just rolling for the burn. It's basically, it's damn near as good as clicking Will-O-Wisp a lot of the time. It's going to get a burn. So one thing I tried to do is go for the Terra Fire. With that, I know I can take not a lot of damage from it, and then I can't be burnt by it. And then if I get up a Dragon Dance, boom, all of a sudden, Whiscash we just might have a Whiscash sweep on our hands. And I figured that would be kind of cool. But they just clicked Brave Bird instead. And now I'm looking like a fool with a chandelier on my head, because while that does do a ton of damage, it at least knocks it down with recoil, and I do at least live it, which is cool, because now I'm at +1 attack and speed. With Sticky Web, I'm going to be faster than everything, and I can, you know, at least try to get some damage off here. So I go for Liquidation, and that is going to be able to take care of the Ho-Oh. So, I mean, while Masquerain wasn't able to do it, at least my other random-ass dude, Whiscash just knocked out a Ho-Oh, which feels pretty good. Might be the first time ever. So at that point, with the Ho-Oh out of the way, it's looking better and better for potential Primeape sweep in the back, if I can make it happen, because it's probably not going to go great for our buddy Whiscash here. But as they now go into the Gliscor, I obviously have a pretty big hit on this thing with a Liquidation. It probably will not knock it out, but playing from behind, at least with the Whiscash here, I decided to try to make a little bit of a play. Now, I expect maybe they go for a Protect here, just try to activate that Toxic Orb and see what happens. Instead, however, they go for the Terra. They're going to go Terra Water, so now they can live a Liquidation easily. And I thought I would really be able to do something here had I Dragon Dance in front of a Protect, but instead, now I'm just Dragon Dancing, awaiting imminent death, which, you know, is what Whiscash does a lot of the time, but I'm determined to get this Dragon Dancing fella to maybe do something. So an Earthquake does finish off the cache, and I also, down goes my Terra with it. So with them going for that Terra Water, it's kind of wasted on their end, right? It didn't do anything for Liquidation, but also now that puts it in range for Decidueye, who's Choice Bandit, who I have in the back, to have a much better time against it. So I'm down to 3 Mons left, and I'm down to 3 weird ones left. But I figure one thing I can do is, now seems like a great time to see if I can get Primeape to get a little something going. So first of all, I would love to be able to catch this thing on a Protect turn. I'm going to go for a Bulk Up, because setup in front of this is always relatively easy. They're predictable. So they do go for the Protect, which is sick. That is a free Bulk Up for your boy. And just like that, +1 attack and defense. We're not only looking pretty thick, but also now relatively scary on the offensive side. So after some Poison Heal, Gliscor is at full health. And one thing about a guaranteed Mon is that Gliscor is gonna click Toxic here. So what I can do is go for the Taunt, stopping that Toxic. They do try to Toxic me, which is amazing. That's one of the best ways to get around this Primeape, is to get a Toxic off, but Taunt just completely shuts that down. And now I am free to go for another Bulk Up, because even with flying coverage, I'm going to take no damage from that. Now, as they go for the Earthquake, I'm at +2 defense with an Eviolite. It does nothing. Primeape probably feels better after that, especially now powering up Rage Fist. So they realize the Gliscor is getting nowhere quick with this, and they got to make some moves. Now, sadly for them, one of the moves they got to make is to swap into Blissey here, because it's kind of just a sack switch. They don't have a whole lot that wants to come in. And as they bring it in, I go for another Bulk Up. I'm bulking the hell up out here. We're getting buff. And I figure now at +3 on both attack and defense, we are looking extremely nice. They no longer have a Terra that they can get out of this, and a Drain Punch is going to go ahead and take that yoke just right to the right to the stomach. And that's great. Down goes the Blissey. Not really a threat at this point. Everything I had left takes care of Blissey anyway. But what that does do is now opens the door for them to bring in the Gardevoir. And while Gardevoir is going to come in, it's going to take some Sticky Web, which is nice. And while I've only been hit by one move, Rage Fist is strong, but it's not, you know, crazy. Now, It traces my Defiant, doesn't make a difference, but at this point I do not have the ability to tear it out of my Fairy weakness. And they also end up outspeeding. Gonna reveal it's gonna be Choice Scarf, but luckily for me, since I'm fully specially defensive, the Moonblast does not even, just does barely over half, which is hilarious because then that just powers my Rage Fist up to the 150, and that's gonna be able to knock out the guard. So they really thought that they could probably just sack that Blissey and then bring in Gardevoir and just knock me out with the Moonblast, but nope, we are calm out here, baby, and that is so satisfying. So as they now can go back into the Gliscor, it is going to get caught up in the Sticky Web just because it's pure water type at this point, which doesn't really make a difference, but I have kind of an interesting mind game here. Now they know I have the taunt, right? So they probably don't want to try to click Toxic, but they go for the Protect turn just to scout what I'm going to do. As I try to Drain Punch, I figured at +3, I mean, Gliscor is about the bulkiest damn thing ever, and I'm not going to do much, but I can heal myself, I can do continual chip to the thing, and I still have the mind game of, do they think I'm going to click Taunt? While I should probably have clicked Taunt, I instead opt for the Drain Punch. I was really interested to just get it going and see how much damage I could do. While I get some health back, now I'm just really hoping they didn't click the Toxic, but they do. Unfortunate for me. There was no downplay to just going for the Taunt there to stop this from happening. Primeape kind of checkmates that, but instead, I make the wrong move in just trying to get antsy and just sweep the rest of the squad and finish it. But now I'm in a position where now they can literally just click freaking Protect, install out a Toxic turn, and just slowly whittle me down. I try to predict the Protect here and just go for a bulk up, but instead they do not. They go for the Earthquake, which is mostly bad because, well, it doesn't really do anything. That just takes another turn of Toxic. So now they can go for a Protect, which is unfortunate, and it is Gliscor. Death taxes and Gliscor is going to be annoying. So I do go for the taunt this time, just to be able to stop Protects and just, you know, hopefully, hopefully end things here. But they just click Earthquake again, and that does just enough chip to where after this poison damage, it doesn't quite knock me out. I live it with 2, which is hilarious. But the main reason why I am just totally not that worried about this end game, at least Primeape finishing it, is because it's looking like Decidueye is going to be able to clutch it. Their final mon in the back is going to be that Blastoise, and a Choice Banded Leaf Blade should just bring it home for us. So while I go for the Drain Punch here, probably would have been more beneficial just to click Rage Fist, which was powered up. But I thought, hey, maybe there's a shot that like I could, you know, get enough to be able to live the combo of an Earthquake and the Toxic. Surely there's absolutely no way. I do go down to my poison, but sometimes the fluff ball's got to go down. That is at least going to do, you know, damage to the Gliscor. It's taunted to where it cannot protect for another poison heal, and it is easily in range to where the Decidueye can just slice and dice him up, and we're just having fried scorpion for dinner tonight. So I bring in young Robin Hoot. Again, I'm Choice Banded. I have the Leaf Blade, and that is going to be enough to knock it out. So down goes the Gliscor, which is great. Again, the matchup there with the Primeape, I definitely I fumbled the bag a bit there, not going to lie. But just knowing that Decidueye was there as a win condition, it didn't really matter. So we're still feeling good. Again, final mon is going to be that Blastoise, and we should be faster, especially with Sticky Web up. If it's going to be White Herb, it'll get rid of that speed drop that comes with the Sticky Web. But big boy Blastoise still doesn't really have enough firepower, even with a super effective Ice Beam, to knock me out, unless it gets up some Shell Smashes. So it does have the White Herb, so it's going to bring its speed back to normal, and I am obviously just going to go ahead and click the old Leaf Blade here. If they want a chance to sweep, they kind of are in a spot where they need to click Shell Smash, which they do. So it's another fun part about the fact that that Sticky Web was there to get rid of the White Herb, is that now they have to take that defensive drop that comes with the Shell Smash, rather than just getting rid of it with that herb. So now he's all smashed the hell up, but he shells in pieces, and now it's in even more pieces because the Leaf Blade's going to be able to finish it. So that's going to be the end of the match on that one. It's just an interesting team. Primeape is hilarious to use, and honestly, nobody sees it as a threat, and it truly is. So that's going to be the end of the video there, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate all the support on the videos, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.